Hello and welcome to Switzer's CEO Masterclass, and today I'm talking to Michele Dilizia, who's Executive Director at Recce Pharmaceuticals. Michele, thanks for joining us on the program.
Very welcome, Peter. Great to join you.
Yeah. Now, look, at a time when the whole world is thinking about drugs and treatments and viruses and things like that, tell us what Recce Pharmaceuticals does.
Well, we're pioneering a brand new class of synthetic antibiotics, which are going to offer for the very first time antibiotics that not only work in the first instance, but importantly, go on to keep on being effective even with repeated use and not lose their potency against a wide range of deadly bacteria.
Yeah. Now, you use the word synthetic, and a lot of people wouldn't understand the difference between normal antibiotics and synthetic. So could you fill us in on that one?
Absolutely. So the synthetic antibiotics are what we can choose to use and design from a laboratory source. Currently, the antibiotics that we have are based from natural sources. So, for example, sourced from fungi, sometimes adapted a little in the laboratory, but primarily are naturally sourced. And their fundamental weakness is that they have specific mechanisms of action. That means that they lock onto a particular site in a bacterium. Inevitably what happens, and as we've seen now with all of the antibiotic resistance accelerating, is the bacteria mutate. They're very clever. They evade the antibiotic, they mutate into a superbug, and you're left with the very real health threat of an antibiotic that no longer works. Now, the advantage of synthetic antibiotics, which we have pioneered and designed, is that you're not limited to what's being offered in nature. You're not operating, if you like, from what I perceive as an inherent position of weakness. You are operating from a position of power because you get to choose your chemical, design your molecule, and in our case, design a universal mechanism of action. That means that no matter how much that bacteria may mutate, our antibiotic will still be effective, even with repeated use. So a good, convincing, long-term solution to a very real health crisis.
Okay, so listening to you, it seems to me that, if in a world which loves everything organic, organic has a shortcoming in the sense that the virus or the bacteria can respond pretty positively to it over time and create a super bug, but your synthetic attack weapon is a bit like the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator of attack weapons when it comes to these kinds of sicknesses and problems.
That's a very good way of putting it. We like to call it that it's a unique, universal mechanism of action. Yeah. It's not limited to a specific site on the bacterium. So it will operate and destroy bacteria through a universal mechanism of action that's common to all bacteria, whether they're gram-negative, gram-positive, a superbug, even a mutated superbug. It will keep working even with repeated use. Okay,
so when you started to develop the synthetic assault weapon on bacteria and viruses, is that right, both of those, what was the target? What was the one you were going after to prove the model?
Well, certainly we started off with the standard range of bacteria that are commonly used to assess antimicrobial resistance. So we looked at common bacteria such as Staph aureus, which is a gram-positive, E. coli, Pseudomonas, your common everyday pathogens, which nonetheless can cause very serious infections in hospitals following surgery, for example. Right. Started with those and then moved on into the superbugs, So we moved on and looked at methicillin-resistant staph or golden staph. We looked at carbapenem-resistant E. coli. That's causing a lot of problems around the world at the moment. So moving into superbugs that were listed on the World Health Organisation's top 10 list of deadly pathogens that they're wanting to get on top of quickly.
Okay. And so... Sorry, Michelle, go on.
So once we'd identified that, yes, we know that we kill these organisms well, we then ran the antibiotic through what really could be viewed as the most important test, and that is, will it keep on working? We've got everyone out there now saying, look, I found an antibiotic in a cave. I found one in the garden, which is great. And they can say it is antibiotic, it does kill. The problem with it is that it will not keep on killing with repeated use. It will have a specific mechanism of action that the bacteria will outsmart and mutate. So that's why we have the advantage. We can keep on killing with repeated use.
Okay, so where is the position of the product right now, in terms of its development and its sale and its your ability to market it? Where are you on that sort of time scale?
Certainly, going very well. We've recently just signed an agreement for a phase 1 safety trial here in Australia. And backing up that entry into phase 1, which is all about safety, we've conducted many preclinical studies to confirm that we have safety in dosing at very high levels. So that's giving us a clear runway and a reassurance that as we head into the clinic, we've got a good runway to achieve the safety that we've seen preclinical and seeing that reproduced in the clinic.
Okay, and so in this world, getting that technology patented, what's the position there?
We've got very good protection with our patents, and the company has invested heavily to ensure that this excellent technology is well protected. So, for example, we have protection in all of these significant global pharmaceutical markets. So that's being USA, UK, Europe, China, Japan, Australia. So we've got our pharmaceutical markets protected. We've also gone to protect the modes of administration of our antibiotics. So we're not only an intravenous application, say to treat sepsis or blood poisoning, but we also have important application and demonstrated efficacy in oral dosing, for example, to treat Helicobacter pylori, and also to treat topically mode of administration, for example, infected wounds. So we've protected our markets, our modes of administration, and we're also protecting the manufacturing process for our antibiotic, which is wholly owned by our company and is a very simple and economic process in contrast to present antibiotic manufacture, which can be multi-step and very complicated.
So what's the financial position of the company at this point in time?
Very strong. We've recently just submitted our 4C documentation to the ASX. That sees us currently with some 4 million in the bank, and with the addition of the research and development grant rebate, giving us a runway of around $10 million to get us into the first clinical trial and beyond. We also successfully raised last year some $6.78 million at 26 cents a share. We're currently trading at 38 cents a share, so that's a fantastic encouragement there.
Where did the idea come from to come up with something that becomes like a heat-seeking missile when it comes to killing bacteria, which doesn't have the same properties as the ones you've described before?
Sure, I think the cradle of invention, if you like, is there's necessity, and there's also, I would say, brilliance. So in that case, our founder, Dr. Graham Melrose, who is former head of research and development at Johnson & Johnson, saw in one of the, he was involved deeply in healthcare and had a very strong background pioneering polymer technology. And he had that light bulb moment, if you like, where he saw a compound he knew would have antibiotic properties, and then married that with his knowledge of polymer chemistry and had that critical aha moment, this will work. And indeed it did. And also we've seen the rise in the last 50 years, more and more of antibiotic resistance. That's really now becoming a global health crisis, and that's pushed the need and attracted the funding for antibiotics such as ours.
Yeah. So where do you see the company being in 12 months' time?
I see the company, in a general sense, coming more and more into the global spotlight as a healthcare innovator, offering real solutions to problems that are increasingly threatening humanity. For example, we're well aware of the crisis that's been brought on by the corona or COVID virus. We're pleasingly also having very good activity against viruses. We're becoming more and more aware as we go into hospital of antibiotic-resistant infections. World Health is predicting some 10 million deaths by 2050 because of antibiotic resistance. So I see our company becoming more and more in the spotlight in a general sense there. In a specific sense, in 12 months, I see us as having valuable human clinical data that's going to accelerate our move even further into hospitals.
Great stuff. Michele, thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you indeed, Peter.